be back again. We are actually a very integral part of the JLF. UN Women has been working with JLF for quite some time now. And today again is a special day, and I'm sitting with two women who I'm already in awe of. When I was talking to them, I was asking them, what is it that I can ask you that you can inform me that I can ask you about that? And it was quite surprising that both of them have done something remarkable, which you'll hear now, and which you'll also see them also talking about that. But here are three difficult women. And I'm sure you already guessed what we're going to talk about. Priya, your poem, We Are the Difficult Women, is going global.
Yes.
What is it that you want to convey?
Hi everyone, Jaipur. कैसे हैं आप लोग? हाँ? चाय पी के नहीं आए? फिर से पूछूं? कैसे हैं आप लोग? Very nice, very nice. So growing up, I was always called a difficult girl. And I think all the women here in the crowd can relate to that because at some point in your life, you have been called difficult, right? Why are you being so difficult? Whether it happened to you as a child or a teenager, as a grown woman, as an old woman, at some point in life, people have found us difficult. But I take a lot of pride in that, being a difficult woman and not being an easy person who takes everything in her stride. So this poem was called We Are the Difficult Women. And it has been doing really well. So would you like me to recite it for you?
Why don't you?
We are the difficult women. We are women who don't take it easy or stay silent. We don't whisper our inconveniences into a void of nothingness. We make it difficult for the society and the patriarchs and the society that also tries to label us. We make it difficult for you to keep us out of the main plot and use us as caricatures because we are the difficult women. We laugh loudly, love proudly, and face heartbreaks like a curtain raiser. If you look deep into our history, it is full of such trailblazers. We write the most beautiful verses, tell the wittiest jokes, and narrate our success stories. We cry on each other's shoulders, we howl and yell our success stories because we are the difficult women. We run with walls and question intersectionality in the current feminist discourse. From being hunted as witches to being worshipped as goddesses is a result of our feminine force. Some of us menstruate with the moon, make love to stars, and carry the labor of labels on our anatomy, but we understand that being a woman is simply identifying as a woman, without the conditioning of a gender binary. We are the difficult women. We are the difficult women. We are the difficult women who make it all look so goddamn easy. Thank you.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you. हिंदी में अगर मैं इसका अनुवाद करूं तो एक अलग से शब्दों में कहूंगी कि चले जो आंधी वो तिनका तिनका, चले जो आंधी वो तिनका तिनका, गुजर जाए दिन कोई फिक्र नहीं है, जो तोड़ दे मेरे हौसलों को अभी वो तूफान उठा नहीं है. So basically difficult women are those who are not scared of the storms. Difficult women are those who are not scared of the world. They chart their own path. Rituparna, you have charted your own path, and I have seen your journey from the beginning. You are doing amazing work, but you haven't reached here just because you are Rituparna today. People would like to know, what has it been like for you to reach here?
Thank you. Zindabad, Satrangi Salam. Can I hear this from all of you? Zindabad. Satrangi Salam. Thank you for being with me and with us three difficult women. Life is beautiful, that's what I always say. And life is all about morom. Morom is an Assamese word, which it's roughly translated into love, but morom is just what you feel. So my life is all about the morom which I have given to me and the womanhood which I have gifted to myself. So the womanhood I am embracing today, it is not that, by God or it is given, but I gifted myself. And I'm proud of this womanhood, and I feel that this womanhood is the force behind the Rituparna, what you just said, the Rituparna today. So I'm really thankful and grateful to this womanhood. And I love calling myself as the daughter of the river Brahmaputra. And I draw my inspiration, my energy, my force from the river Brahmaputra, Luit, Mahabahu. And I am flowing with the river as the river always flow. And this is what my life is all about, that I just want to keep flowing and going and growing and just meeting more people, making connections and spreading more love. So that's what I am.
Wonderful, Rituparna. And that's what I think we want to hear. रुकना हमको आता कहाँ है? नहीं आता है, हमें रुकना भी नहीं है. But Priya, you have experimented with different mediums. You have experimented with different kinds of art, I would say. Everything you do is a piece of art. How has it been that you have now decided to work with poetry, with words, and how you change the narrative in the society through your words?
Sure. So, growing up in an Indian middle class family, you are not aspiring to be a poet, especially growing up in the 90s. Our parents always wanted us to get the traditional careers, either you become a teacher or an engineer or a doctor or a banker. And I don't blame them because they just wanted us to have financially secure and stable lives. I hadn't seen growing up a woman holding a mic, reciting poems and making money out of it, ever. If I ask you to name a single two female lyricists in the Indian film industry, you won't be able to name them. Because when we think of writers, when we think of poets who have done really well in our country, there are very few women out there. Amrita Pritamji was one of them, one of the first female Punjabi feminist poets. And yes, there have been a few, but we haven't seen them growing up aspirationally. So growing up, I never thought of this as a career. I've been writing poems since I was 12, but I was always told to do it as a hobby. Side mail. And I was a very good student. So Oprah Winfrey once said that do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do. So up till the age of almost 30, I did what I had to do. I did all my 4 degrees. I was doing a corporate career. I became a school teacher. I have an MEd. I was teaching in Australia. And then finally when I felt, okay, I really need to go back on stage again because I really enjoyed doing that as a kid. At the age of 30, I actually became a spoken word poet. At the age of 30, I finally had the self-belief and also the financial capability of giving up on a stable career and trying this on the side and seeking, theek hai, dekhte hain iska kya hota hai. And I think the number one reason why it became a career is because I did it out of sheer love for poetry. I wasn't actually looking to go viral. I wasn't looking to get famous. I wasn't looking to get money. I had other ways to do that. I was already doing TV and news and wo sab ho raha tha. But for poetry, it was just out of sheer love. And I think that's why that love has come back to me as well. And it's only in the last few years that I've been doing it full time. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. So also what is the beauty of modern times is that there are so many kinds of career options that people have.
Thankfully.
Yes, absolutely. I remember when I was growing up, and I come from Haryana, we didn't know anything else. In fact, becoming an engineer was also a far-fetched dream. Coming from a farmer's family, it was very difficult for me to even write anything and not hide it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was when I was about 40 years, Priya, that I was in a workshop in Germany. And then the workshop moderator, he was asking us different questions about our lives. And at the end of it, of the 90 women who are here, you have a book in you. And I didn't know I have a book in me. I still don't know. But what I'm saying is each woman who's sitting here, who's out there in the world, has a book in her. It's just that we don't have the words to write it. When I start writing anything, I fall short of words. Because in childhood, you haven't really developed those skills. But it's a very interesting, I want to talk more about that because it's also my personal goal to write something and write poetry. But it's amazing I'm talking to you. Ritu, you have also been doing some amazing work in terms of setting up libraries in your community. What was the purpose? Why do you think libraries will change the way people think, the way people do work in the society? And how do you want to shape young minds?
Thank you, Kantaji, for this much needed question because I love responding to this. Why I started to work on library, because the person today standing in front of you and speaking, it's because of one power, which is the power of reading. Without reading, I cannot imagine and think about my existence. Because when you read, you can think. When you can think, you can ask. And when you ask, you get it. So I mean to say about the right, हक. पढ़ना हम सबका हक है. और ये हक हम किसी से छीन नहीं सकता है. और ये हक के बिना हम यहाँ कोई नहीं आ सकता है. Like, none of you would have sit here and take a stand for yourself and rise in your life. But how do we ensure the right of reading for all of us? Yes, school is there, but that पढ़ाई और पढ़ाई for life, that is something different, right? हम पढ़ना कैसे समझते हैं, ये भी एक सवाल होता है. And I see that reading for life and reading for your right, which happens outside of school also, it happens in a community library. Because reading is not an individual act. I believe that reading is a collective act. And this collective act can happen in a community library, where you have diverse book collection in front of you. You have a choice to select the book which you want to read. You want to aspire that this kind of genre I am going to read. This author I am going to meet one day. And this kind of subjects and topic I want to read. And the children have different kind of options in front of there and they can select by rightfully. And this is what a library can do, a free community library can do. In my childhood, I did not get a library. But thanks to my parents, especially to my ma, who was kind enough to bring always books to me. So she will give me extra money to go to book fair, to buy books, and I will feel the most rich person on the day of book fair, that I got so many books. And I always used to read about libraries in other parts, and I'm like, why there is no library in my village? And I said, I was studying in a village school. So of course there was no library. There is no concept of the library in the school. But I was shifted to a bigger school in high school, class 8 standard. And our school had an amazing library. So I had so many books. And as a queer child that time, I was severely bullied by my peers, my seniors, anyone and everyone in the school. And library gave me the most safe space. Because I could go and hide behind the books. I could read. I made friends in the books. The characters were not judging me. They were not abusing me. They were not bullying me. I could find the most safest space in the world as a form of library. And since that time, I'm like, I will make one day one library. And I did not know how it will look like. So when I studied social work, I started working in the social space. Then I started knowing about democratic values, democratic spaces. And I imagined library as a democratic space which fosters feminist principles and values. So for me, community library, free library is a feminist space. It's an anti-caste space. It's an anti-discriminatory space. It gives you the right for your life where you can read, you can think, and you can lead. This is what the library ideas is all about. And I'm doing it because we need to read, we need to think, and we need to lead. And we have to live a life of dignity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ritupurna. Very nice. I think all of us are here because we love books. And books open the doors of the different world that we have not been to. And to me personally, when I was a child, I used to think, how New York looks like. When you read in books, you start imagining the place. And sometimes those dreams do come true, right? And many of us have seen that. We used to think about the flights, the aeroplane that used to go from near my house. I used to think, when will I sit there, right? And now, God has made it possible, and people around us have made it possible for us to fly the same aircraft. So books give you that imagination that take you far even without being there, right? So Priya, I'll come to you now. When you talk to many men, most of them, who will say, I have, so-and-so has inspired me. So-and-so is my muse.
Yeah.
what works for women? What has motivated you to start writing poetry?
Frida Kahlo used to say that she's her best and favorite subject, and she used to draw a lot of self-portraits. In my case, not even most, all of my poetry comes from my own life, my own experiences. I only write about things that I passionately feel about. And there are two things that I feel passionately about. One is love and relationships, and a lot of my poems are love poems, and social issues, where you have gender discrimination, feminist issues. So my poetry is all about my life, my value system, and what works for me. And I think that is why I was able to also shift a few structures and make that space for myself, because I was just being honest with my art. So, yeah.
Wonderful. But I'll come back to you on the same, sentence that you just mentioned, gender equality.
Yeah.
So how do you see, perceive, and address gender equality in the country? Of course, you have a medium that you write, and you're also writing other things, but you are also an actor.
Yes.
So when you choose a subject, do you also see that it is not representing women in a different way that they should be represented?
I haven't actually done a lot of acting, and I don't identify myself as an actor at all. In fact, when people ask me, how would you like to be introduced, I tell them I'm a poet first, a storyteller second, an educator third, because I'm a teacher by qualification and I've taught for a couple of years, and an actor fourth, just as a hobby. As the parents used to say, side mein. So that's acting for me. Do I get into the nitty-gritty of the characters I'm playing? No. If the script demands it, and if the script is showing a certain character, I usually take up characters which have a short lifespan. I like to die in my shows and movies and films. So I tell them that I don't want to do this for too long because it will keep me away from my writing. What happens to this character? They're like, okay, she's going to have an accident. I'm like, great. So most of the characters that I've done have had a very short span. I've done a very meaningful film, though, which is called Sheer Korma, which is a film about LGBTQI community, and I've played a very small character in it, but instrumental in the idea of pronouns for the community. So as long as the character is doing something for the script, चाहे वो एक scene है, चाहे वो ऐसे पीछे से passing shot है, I'm okay with it. Yeah.
But you write from a gender perspective. You do.
I do, yes. In fact, one of my first poems which went viral was called Right to Pleasure, which is about women being able to have autonomy over their own body and sexual needs. Then there's another one called Art Has No Gender. So there's a lot of gender writing and environment as well, because that's another issue that I deeply care about.
Wonderful. Thank you, Priya. Rituparna, again to you. You have also been featured in UN Women's book called the Hum. Hum means we. So last year, UN Women curated a book with 75 women leaders. 2 of them are here with me, and we are really proud of the work that you have done. But how do you curate your content, and how do you then present it in a story-telling fashion? How much time do you spend on that?
Yeah, thank you. It's a technical question about the crafts and about the work. And also, it's a political question because curation is political. Like राजनीति के बिना नहीं होता है क्योंकि हाँ बिल्कुल क्योंकि उस पे एक सोच होता है और आप क्या सोच के साथ वो क्यूरेशन कर रहे हैं वो इम्पोर्टेंट है. So whenever I curate for my library, especially with the book collection, I try to look at the context of the community first. What kind of communities it is the library is serving to? What kind of diverse identities there in the community? For example, if I'm curating a book collection in a community library in an area where mostly populations are from the Adivasi community, then how does the sessions will look like, how the book collection will look like. So from there, I try to start thinking about it. For example, I run 2 libraries, and my satis within the Free Libraries Network all over the country runs more than 200 plus libraries, but I know and understand them. They serve to different kind of communities. Like there are satis who are running libraries lives in Pondicherry. So her community is very different. There are Sathis in Uttarakhand, there are Sathis in Jharkhand, Bihar, Rajasthan. So for all of us, the context is very different. The particularly two library I run, one is in my own village. So we have a mixed community where Assamese speaking community is there as well as the Adivasi community is there. So then what kind of books I'm trying to bring? So very cultural contextual books from both the community, the history, the literature for sure, and then aspirational books. Like, the children, where do they aspire? What you just talked about, that you want to fly. Our children also has to fly. They have to be the scientists. They have to, all kind of people. So we have books on those also aspirational topics as well. Different picture books, because picture gives you the imagery so that, the children can find themselves, they locate themselves, and with different kind of language. And are you being able to find literature from the Adivasi community or not? Are you being able to dig into the literature, the heritage and all, and then bringing books from there? If not, then are you translating it to or not? Are you building some contextual material or not? That is also one thing I definitely look at. The other library I run, it's called Chandraprabha Saikyani Feminist Library and Resource Center. So it says feminist library. Then the curation also looks like that. And it's a feminist action hub for LGBTQI community in Assam. So when we are curating books, we are curating mostly books around feminist text, inclusion, and also a theoretical aspect is there because the members and the readers in that library is a little bit different. So I always try to look at the community whom I am serving first, understanding them, different language, cultural sensitivity, and bringing a choice in front of them, for example, and also being politically aware about what's happening within the country right now, or what is happening around us, and from there, how you are, bringing different kind of perspective and the book curation. For example, in the feminist library of us, we have a bookshelf that is trans heroes and trans heroes. Because of our community, my community, you do not see a lot of people that you aspire to be from your own community, right? So then how my community will draw inspiration ki I can be like this? Yeah. So from different parts of the world, we tried to look at the autobiography and biography of different transgender leaders, activists, people who excelled, and then we try to curate a book collection around that. So this is just one example I am giving. Within the same library, we have a collection for children, which is called Diverse Collection, and there we have books on disability, we have books on caste identity, on indigenous identity, sexuality, gender beyond binary, all sorts of books. Even books which are banned in some of the libraries in US also, because it's a similar context we always live in different parts of the world, that some people just do not tolerate about idea which is different, which is queer, right? So we are trying to bring those kind of books as well, because people say that children must not read books on sexuality, gender beyond binary. But children are beyond binary. Children are trans. How can you not read about yourself? I was a trans always. It's not that something else has influenced me. Then it should have been that I'm so surrounded by cisgender heterosexual people, then I should have been influenced by cisgender heterosexual people and should be the cisgender heterosexual. But I did not become right. I am a trans and I lived trans. So this is how I look at when I curate books and design my sessions.
Thank you, thank you. Very nice. I remember a friend who was trying to set up libraries in her constituency. She's a political person. And we went to a slum library in a slum area in Gurgaon. And there I saw a section called gender writing. Yes. And it was very strange feeling. I said, who brought these books here? And a complete, section on Kamala Bhasin. Yes. So people who wrote on Kamala Bhasin, and Kamala Bhasin wrote herself. I'm sure some of you know Kamala Bhasin. So very powerful writing. And I asked a young girl who was there as a volunteer, I said, who brought these books? And she said she did some internship with a feminist organization. And so she said, I really loved reading about what was written about gender issues. So she said, I opened this section, and there's a lot of interest in young girls. This was amazing how you set and changed narrative within the young community, and I really was very happy about seeing that. For a UN Women staff, there can't be anything better than that.
Even Kamladi's books are integral part of our
Absolutely.
collection, because her book is appealing to everyone.
Absolutely.
Everyone can
Men and women
understand.
both.
Everyone, yeah.
Absolutely. But on that, Rituparna mentioned political, right? And personal is political. There's nothing
course.
which is not political around us. But what do you think, in your perspective, what is the relationship between creative world and activism? How do they mix together?
They can't exist without each other, because personal is always political. So when I say that my writing is personal and I am my favorite subject and all my poems are inspired from me and my life and what I believe in, obviously I do have my political beliefs as well, which come to the forefront. Any feminist writing is also political writing at the end of the day. So yes, I do believe that both can't survive without each other. They do sometimes survive without each other, but should they? The answer is no. Because when you've been given a voice, when you've been given a mic, when you've been given words, when you've been given space in the social structure, you should be able to use it in the right narrative.
Absolutely. And today I always talk about how political rights for women are being realized through participation, but I think we need to go a step higher by being there on the table. So representation is very important. So all of us young women who are sitting here and anybody else who aspires to be in politics, I think let's consider that as a viable career option. It's not easy, but nothing is easy. Nothing in our lives are easy. So we should think about that. At UN Women, we are trying to create a program around shaping pathways for politics for women, because with 33% reservation, we are hoping that it will be put into practice in 29. We need more women leaders there to speak about themselves, not being represented by somebody else. So I think political rights of women are very, very critical. The last thing before I invite Rituparna to share something very, very beautiful, I also say that young women, to all young women, that this is the best time to be born a woman. Seriously, I really believe in that, because this century belongs to women. We need to realize our full rights. Also, there is no dearth of inspiration. Any field, Priya, that you look around you, every field you have women. So we just have to not go back to where we. Yeah, absolutely, we have come a long way, and people like both of you and many others who are shaping the world to be a better place. I think all of us need to recommit ourselves to achieve that. But Rituparna, before I open the floor for questions, I would like to request you to recite your poem, which is very interesting, and I think many people in the audience would like to hear that.
Thank you. Just a disclaimer, just Priya said ki she's actress last or actor last. Many people say Rituparna is poet. I'm like, no. So, but then I try to write the things which are inside me, maybe suffocating me, and my experience being in a patriarchal society. And patriarchy is real, which is affecting all of us, impacting all of our life, men, women, girls, boys, trans, queer, everyone. So I try to locate myself there and just try to, recite or write. So I will try to recite one of the poetry, which I write in Assamese only, but very fortunately Zuban has translated recently one, so I can recite from there. And my education happened in Assamese, so English will be not so par like all of you, so bear with me. Okay, so how many of you know or recognize Scarecrow? Scarecrow? Yeah, most of you, right? Do you find scarecrow fascinating? Is it fascinated you? It fascinated me always, and I always wonder about scarecrow. And in Assamese, we call it so. So, that's the word. And I wrote a poem on scarecrow. So, the title of the poem is Better Being a Scarecrow. And it's published in the anthology called The Riverside Stories by Zuban. And this is translated by one of my feminist friend, Bana Mallika. Sometimes I think it's better to be a scarecrow. No one asks, now what have you worn? Better to be a scarecrow. Nobody cares what lies beneath the clothes. Better to be a scarecrow. No sideways glares that stripe me naked. Yes, better to be a scarecrow. No one will ask me, male or female. The other day, I saw a scarecrow. It sat unperturbed, wearing a black shirt and a mekhela. But no one asked, oh dear, what on earth have you worn? On another scarecrow, someone turned its lips black with the ink from the futukola seed. Futukola is a indigenous seed in Assam we get, and we can just, your mouth become colorful when you see it. But no one asked, now what have you smeared on yourself? On another scarecrow, loving hands placed the buns of jute on its head. No one thought, when did this scarecrow grow hair? On another scarecrow, with a piece of charcoal, someone drew its eyes. But no one raised an eyebrow at that. The other day, I saw some people putting together a scarecrow with care. They got an old blouse of their mother's and hung it on its body. You could tell that the blouse was once a bright red. They tied a piece of the grandfather's old Markin dhoti to its waist too. The jute hair was already there. Then they wondered what more, what else they could add. So someone fetched a piece of charcoal and drew 2 lines above its eyes. The coal from the futukola was already there. The scarecrow was complete. These days, the scarecrow hangs on a terrace. But no one asks what is beneath the scarecrow's clothes. Nor do they twist their glanced side eyes. Smiling passerby merely remark, ah, what a beautiful scarecrow. Sometimes I wish to be a scarecrow and stand by the roadside. Then no one will ask, what have you worn? No one will wonder what lies beneath these clothes. And their eyes, maybe they will not strip me naked. Sometimes I think it's better to be a scarecrow.
Wonderful. I'm really inspired today. So something will come out. But Priya, what will come out next? What should we wait for?
Oh, I'm writing 2 books at the moment. There is a book called For Those Who Love Too Much, which is a collection of English love poetry. और एक हिंदी की किताब आ रही है, हिंदी और उर्दू की, जिसका नाम है इश्क के साथ पड़ाव. तो उम्मीद है कि इस साल I will be able to finish both books and be out there.
And
Yeah.
next year, you will read your book here.
Yes,
in the
let's launch the books at JLF.
Absolutely. Wonderful. We look forward to that.
Thank you, thank you.
Ritu, what else? What more? Where next?
Yeah, so there's nothing next but then continuing the work and my belief on feminism, feminist principle, values. So the vision for an equal society where we all have the dignity, the rights you need to enjoy. So keep on doing that for that and keep on doing. But the biggest vision, all of us have, my comrades and all, and I want to say, sitting here, everyone loves reading, that India should have a free public library system so that we can read more.
Yes.
We can have a policy from the government, backed by government funding, every nooks and corner, we need to have free community library where we have books in our hand and we are reading and we are going for critical thinking, scientific temperament, and upholding constitutional values. This is what I want to say.
So, just in case some of us are not aware, Karnataka government has done that amazing work. Uma ma'am has done wonderful work. Every village has library where elderly people, young children, and young girls come. It is their safe space because elderly people are also not really welcome at home in many cases. So for them, libraries have proved to be very useful, safe spaces where they come and also teach young children. Yes. So it's also mixing of generations, so real generation equality in that sense. And Uma ma'am is spreading that movement everywhere in Karnataka. It's a different site. I have been to some of the libraries. And this is something which can be started at very low cost. So really inspired to do something in that direction.
I just want to add that we need in all corners of our country, in Nagaland, in Manipur, in Kashmir, in Rajasthan, in Tamil Nadu, in Gujarat, everywhere we need, and I'm sure it's all of your ask as well. The next generation of our children should have, for elderly, there should be a place in the community, they are coming and reading together. I know gathering is a community space, so all of us should ask for it.
Yes. We have 8 minutes left now. We would like to take some questions. So 4 questions to do justice to the speakers. Yeah. So you first, ma'am.
They are also candidates.
Yes. Ek idhar se.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Anju Gehlot, and my question to Rituparna Nyuk, ma'am. Ma'am, may I know your opinion on the social change versus custom usages and tradition, or do you think that social change with custom are customs with social change in your transgender community, queer community, or custom and traditions are against social change in your community? May I know your opinion on this?
Okay.
Thank you.
So,
do we take another question and then we can? Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yeah. There.
Good evening, everyone. My question is to Priya ma'am. So my question is, as someone deeply immersed in poetry, what is your take on the essence of poetry, whether it lies in structure or the rawness of expression?
Okay, sure. You take the answer first.
Yes, thank you. When I understand about custom and tradition, so many of the customs and tradition which upholds us, which protect us, which is because of which what we are today, and there are so many customs and tradition which try to jeopardize us, right? So those things needs to be changed for sure. For example, I'll just give a small example from our region Northeast. We have customary laws. Yeah. We all of us knows. And there are customary laws which protects the indigenous community, the land, the forest. But there are some customary laws which goes against women's rights. Then are we going to just go ahead with the customary laws, which is in the name of protecting the community, but it's going for the half of the population? Yeah. Then we have to change it. So how we are bringing it? So social change with mindfulness about the customs and traditions. So that has to be in the name of just customs and tradition. We cannot just, blindly follow everything. And also, just because we need something else, we cannot just remove the customs and traditions. So we have to have a balance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, so to answer your question, for me, poetry is less about form and structure, and it is more about self-expression. Back in the day, when we read the classic poets, Wordsworth or Sylvia Plath, the old Tennessee, all of those poets, you would tend to notice that there is a lot of focus on structure. Spoken word poetry actually breaks those structures. We break a lot of rules when we are writing. We don't necessarily write in rhyme. We don't necessarily write in a meter. And a lot of, when I go for the mushairas and all of those places, they really frown upon that, कि आप बहर में लिख के नहीं लेकर आए. But I think that's the beauty of it, because art is always evolving. So just like stand-up comedy is a new evolved form of the comedians we used to see back in the days, in the same way spoken word poetry is nothing but an evolution of the poetry that you and I have read as children. So while there is nothing wrong in structure, it should never stop you from expressing yourself.
Thank you. Yes, sir, you were saying. Yes, please.
हेलो इज ऑडिबल
Yes.
सतरंगी सलाम ऋतुपर्णा मैम मेरा सवाल आपसे है यू एंगेज विद द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ द आसाम सोशल जस्टिस डिपार्टमेंट इज़ वेरी कंजर्वेटिव गवर्नमेंट देयर तो मेरा सवाल आपसे है और जो हिंदी पट्टी क्षेत्र के भी जो लोग आते हैं आप उनसे इंगेज कैसे कर पा रही हैं कारण ये है कि कंजर्वेटिव सोसाइटी कंजर्वेटिव गवर्नमेंट डोंट एंगेज विद द LGBTQ राइट्स इन पर्टिकुलर वे और दूसरा सवाल मेरा ये है LGBT कम्युनिटी में मेरा स्पेसिफिक ट्रांसजेंडर कम्युनिटी दे आर द बैंगिंग ऑन स्ट्रीट्स राइट और जो बधाई का जो कॉन्सेप्ट है आपके वो सबसे कम पढ़े लिखे होते हैं तो उनके शिक्षा के लिए आपके लाइब्रेरी में आपने क्या कॉन्सेप्ट सोच रखा है और उनके लिए आप क्या काम कर रही हैं पहला आपका जवाब गवर्नमेंट पे
क्या नाम है आपका?
निखिल प्रोफेसर निखिल
Okay, thank you, Nikhil. देखिए, we have to coexist. And where system is there, the power is there, you have to have dialogue and conversation. So I believe in that. And मुश्किलें तो हर जगह होते हैं, right? There are challenges everywhere. And I am in a responsible position. So from there, what are the negotiation you are being able to make it? The voice from your community you are being able to bring to the policymaker, that constant negotiation, constant conversation, constant dialogue is very important. So approach with a threatening approach from this end also is going to be harmful because the persons or the authority in front of you will shut the door. So there is always a midway in that way. So all of us who work in the social, science area, there are different ways to negotiate these spaces. So in Assam, if I will say, we are trying some more work to be done on the transgender rights. Officials are more open to listen, to take action, even the ministers also. I am not sugarcoating, but then things are changing as well. When the Transgender Persons Protection Act is there, we have a scope to have dialogue and conversation. So any kind of authority, how we are sensitizing, having dialogue, and with patience, that is very important. So I would like to respond in that way. So never lose faith and the hope in the system. We keep hammering, then probably the wall will break down, right? So the another one, Badhai, I will just mention, how many of us here get irritated when a trans person, per se kinnar or a hijra person comes and beg, and many of us get irritated right here. हम शीशा ऊपर कर लेते हैं, ठीक है? कितने हमारे बीच में लोग हैं जो उससे पूछते हैं कि कैसे हो आप? पैसा देना दूर की बात है. हाँ, आप पूछते, बहुत लोग पूछते हैं यहाँ पे है, मुझे मालूम है, थैंक यू. ये बहुत आसान है इल्ज़ाम लगाने के लिए कि आप आके मांगते हो, हंगामा करते हो, उत्पात करते हो, बट हम पहले काम नहीं देते हैं. So until and unless we are not giving work to the community, to the education, then we cannot talk against about begging also. That's one way of living life. So पहले काम.
Thank you, Rituparna. In fact, I wanted to talk about that पहले महिलाओं को बाहर रखा गया इन सब चीज़ों से कि ये फाइनेंस आपके लिए नहीं है, पॉलिटिक्स आपके लिए नहीं है, पढ़ाई लिखाई आपके लिए नहीं है. ये लोगों को बाहर सिस्टम से रखने का एक तरीका होता है. जस्ट बिकॉज यू आर बोर्न अ मैन और अ वुमन और LGBTQI, इससे क्या फ़र्क पड़ता है? इसका क्या मतलब है इस बात का ज़िंदगी से? रियल ज़िंदगी सबकी एक जैसी ही है, लेकिन अवसर का अभाव है. और अवसर के अभाव में लोग जहाँ बैठे हैं वहाँ रह जाते हैं. And all of us who are sitting here have to think about these things, that they are there on the streets because we we in the same system did not provide them enough opportunities, and they were discriminated against just because they were born a certain way. वही औरतों का हाल था और आगे फिर किसी और का होगा, पर ठीक है ना, तो हमें सावधान भी रहने की आवश्यकता है इस बारे में. But one more question, I have 20 seconds. If there is none, okay, there is one. Quickly, shortest question and shortest answer.
Okay, hello to both of you. I look up to you big time. I have a question. You recited a beautiful poem about Scarecrow, and you adore your traditional wear beautifully. I've seen Priya ma'am wear beautiful homegrown brands. One thing that I personally struggle when I go out to perform on stage is I won't say male gaze, but societal gaze. How will my image be perceived when I speak about a certain topic, or I perform a poetry about a certain, be it gender, be it a social cause, be it my own personal life? So how do you cope up with that? Or the way you dress up, be it your statement with traditional clothes or your statement with your traditional clothes, is a beautiful thing.
Thank you, colleagues. I think we'll have to get down and respond to this question, but thank you for being a wonderful audience. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone.
But big hand for both the speakers. I'm really delighted and honored to be in their company. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.